She streamed lies from my own driveway, calling me an elder abuser to her followers. My pulse didn't rise. I simply called the police and let the paper trail speak louder than her camera. That night, her sponsors dropped her faster than her signal. And believe me, this story's just getting started. The morning began the way I liked it. Soft light slipping through the Spanish moss outside my kitchen window, the faint whistle of the kettle, and the smell of jasmine tea curling around me. I thought it was going to be another quiet Monday in Savannah. Then my phone buzzed on the counter. At first, I ignored it. Folks my age know better than to let a phone run our morning. But something about the tone of the alert, it wasn't my usual text chime, made me look. The screen showed a message from my neighbor. "Cynthia, Rain, you might want to see this." There was a link. I tapped it, and the first thing I saw was my own kitchen, my hands, my voice. The title read, "Ridiculous Old Lady." The voiceover, my daughter-in-law's, laughed over clips of me humming and flipping pancakes. The camera angle made my kitchen look messy, the lighting unkind. She'd even added one of those cartoon filters that made my eyes too big, my mouth small and mean. The comment section scrolled fast. "LOL Grandma." Cringe energy. She thinks she's a boss. My chest went cold. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the phone. I set it face down, adjusted the dish towel on the oven handle, and felt the air shift inside me. "Well, I whispered. That child done put me on blast." By 8 o'clock, the echo had spread. The church ladies texted "praying for you," which is code for gossip, has started. My cousin sent, "Ignore her baby." At the salon, they'd be whispering already. I stepped onto my porch, watching the drizzle streak the magnolia leaves. A jogger passed and looked away too quick. Savannah folks are polite that way. They'll never say poor thing to your face, but they'll write it online. The sting settled into my ribs like humidity, thick, hard to shake. But under the embarrassment, something steady began to form. I'd spent too many years building this home, paying taxes, keeping the roof tight, to be turned into a meme. I brewed another cup of tea, jasmine and backbone. I watched the clip again with the sound off, focusing on the details, my rent ledger on the counter, envelopes marked with tenants' names. She'd filmed without permission. That wasn't just rude, that was a line crossed. "Rain," I told myself. "You can't control her mouth, but you can sure control your keys." I pulled out my small notebook labeled House Ardsley Park and dated a new page, March 11th. 3 lines followed, no shouting, no begging. Paper first. Then I called Ambrose Keller, my attorney. He answered on the second ring, voice calm as Sunday service. "Morning, Ambrose. You busy? For you, Ms. Delaney. Someone filmed me in my own kitchen. I need to make sure my house stands on paper, not on wishes," he told me. "Document, preserve, don't engage. We'll talk at 3. I hung up feeling something close to relief. A plan, not panic. The smell of butter and grits filled the kitchen. I plated my breakfast, steadying my hands, through the window. I heard laughter from next door. Callista, my daughter-in-law, talking loud on her live feed again. I didn't peek, I didn't text. I just wiped the counter, capped my pen, and took a screenshot of her stream for evidence. By mid-morning, the doorbell rang. I glimpsed her reflection in the glass, ring light halo glowing like a stage prop, phone raised high. I stood tall, adjusted my robe, and unlocked the deadbolt 1 click. My phone buzzed again, a new text from an unknown number. About that rent pickup. I smiled, small but sure. If she came for a scene, she was about to meet a ledger. The brass knob was cool in my hand when I paused, looking through the small crack between the door and chain. Outside. Sunlight hit the ring light she carried like a halo for the wrong kind of angel. Her phone was pointed at me. I could see my own reflection in the screen. Robe, silver hair, calm face. Not the villain she wanted me to be. I lowered my shoulders and told myself, use your inside voice. Rain. The porch boards creaked beneath her shoes, and behind her, a neighbor slowed with a dog, pretending not to watch. I greeted her plainly. Good morning, Callista. Voice steady, chain still latched. Courtesy first, control second. She lifted her phone higher, speaking in that syrupy tone she saves for her followers. Hey y'all, just having a little chat about boundaries with our elders. The live symbol flashed red. I felt my pulse climb, but I didn't blink. Put your phone down, I said. You don't film in my doorway. She smirked, adjusting her hair for the camera. It's just transparency. Rain. My truth. People love seeing family work things out. I met her eyes. Truth don't need a filter. Neither does courtesy. Her laugh faltered when I added, no filming in my home, no using my name without consent. I didn't shout. The chain stayed on. I made sure the lens caught that barrier, a visual line she couldn't cross. I ended the scene myself, closing the door with the chain still visible. Slow and final. No slamming, no drama. Just the sound of boundaries locking in place. I silenced my phone. The live notifications would have to dance without me. I wrote the timestamps, 8:07, 8:09, 8:12, next to the phrase, porch incident. Then I snapped a screenshot of the live's thumbnail before setting the phone aside. Breathing by the sink, I counted to 7, the way my mama used to before answering fools at church. Not my first rodeo, I whispered, outside again. The world had opinions. The mail carrier nodded but didn't meet my eyes. 2 teenagers pedaled by, whispering. That's the TikTok lady. I caught their words, not their faces. My spine straightened like I was in Sunday service. A tenant waved, asking about the leaky faucet. I smiled, said, I'll fix it by Thursday. Reputation was currency here. Mine would stay clean. I walked 1 block, let the wind cool my temper, then returned to call Ambrose. Morning, Ambrose. She live-streamed at my door. I set a boundary. Didn't escalate. Good, he said, pen scratching paper. Document everything. We'll handle consent and privacy. I want the house and rents insulated, quiet. Then we tighten it. I'll send a checklist, follow it like a recipe. He told me to preserve clips, avoid public replies, and check bank accounts. I penciled in 1P, Ambrose, privacy, plus accounts. Then I sorted files into a new folder labeled Porch 03111. I listed witnesses, neighbor, dog, her phrases. I moved the rent envelopes into a locking tin, took a photo of the door frame, proof of private space. If it ain't written, it didn't happen, I muttered. Next, I called my bank. Ms. Delaney, the clerk said. We'll add a verbal password. Bring your ID tomorrow. I confirmed, added, no outside withdrawal permissions. She replied, we'll keep it tidy. I texted Ambrose the time, 9:15 a.m., and he answered, good move. Then my phone buzzed again. Callista's new reel. A clip from this morning, captioned, setting boundaries with stubborn elders. I didn't watch it. I just logged the timestamp, view count, and 2 lies she'd told. My cousin texted. Want me to clap back? I wrote. No, baby. Grown folks handle grown things. At my table, I wrote 1 clean line in my notebook. You don't film in my home or use my name for content. I practiced it once in the mirror. Tone level is morning coffee. I taped a note by the bell. No recording beyond threshold. Private residence. Then I poured fresh tea, breathing through steam and purpose. You can't stop people from talking, but you sure can button your pockets. Ambrose texted, "Bring old trust papers this afternoon." A minute later, the bank reminder chimed. I stacked my papers neatly, hands still. A car slowed by the curb, engine low, eyes inside. I didn't look up. I wrote instead. By the time she reached for my rent, there'd be nothing of mine in her hand. The cedar scent met me before I even opened the lid. My late husband built that box himself, carved Delaney House and Rents into the wood like it was a promise. It wasn't just memory anymore. It was my leverage. I placed it on the bed, the soft thud against the quilt steadying me. Inside were deeds, HOA letters, tenant ledgers, old trust papers, and insurance forms. The air felt heavier, but cleaner, like the moment before a storm breaks. I told myself out loud. Feelings can holler. Papers do the talking. I pulled out a yellow legal pad, wrote the title across the top, what I control and what needs locking, and set my kitchen timer for 15 minutes. I worked in sprints now, time boxed against anger. I sorted through documents with the care of someone diffusing a bomb, ownership papers in one pile, banking and rent ledgers in another, insurance, digital accounts, passwords, written, not saved online. Every pile got its photo. Deed front 03111, ledger March 0311. No fancy names, just facts. I added a new folder titled Consent Incidents. Sliding in the screenshots from Callista's porch stunt, I marked any paper that still bore my husband's name with a bright, sticky note. If I can list it, I can lock it. I murmured. If I can lock it, I can sleep. At 11:42, I texted Ambrose. Box sorted, deed, trust, ledgers, insurance in hand, ETA 12:45. His reply came fast. Come on, we'll tighten the roof before it rains. I smiled despite myself. I packed the papers in an accordion folder, IDs in front, a pen and stapler on the side. Old landlord habits never die. The rent envelopes went into a locked tin, tucked inside my tote. Before stepping out, I left a note on the door. No filming, no exceptions, paper first. I patted my pockets, keys, phone, notebook, all there. Ambrose's office smelled like order. Clean, cold air and polished oak. Degrees lined the wall. His pen never stopped moving. Here's what's mine, I said, setting the folder down. Here's what's loose. We'll make the loose things tight, he replied. He flipped through the old trust, translating every term into plain English. Update the clauses, consolidate titles, define consent and privacy. Together we drafted a bullet plan, restatement of trust, deed confirmation, scrub beneficiaries, lock digital permissions, cease and desist template. He printed a short privacy letter I could hand anyone filming inside my home. I signed the first directive, and he stamped it with a notary's seal that hit the paper like a gavel. Then came the real power shift. Ambrose updated the trust title with today's date, clean and final. We cut out every outdated transfer note. Now, the sole beneficiary was the Delaney Family Trust. Trustee, me. He added bank instructions. No withdrawals without my presence and verbal password. You didn't get louder. Rain, he said. You got legal. I chuckled, soft but proud. About time the law caught up with manners. He slid me a one-page directive for tenants. Rent to the trust only. I signed a limited cease and desist order against anyone publishing my image or name filmed in my home. When I stepped into the hallway, my phone buzzed. A tenant texted, Callista said she'd swing by the bank for you? Another ping followed, a reminder from the branch about tomorrow's appointment. I typed fast. Do not hand cash or keys to anyone but me. Trust deposit only. I tucked the notarized pages into the folder, feeling the weight of new control. I turned to Ambrose. If she reaches for my rent, she's going to find a dry well. He smiled. Then let's make sure it's bone dry. By the time I left, my name sat on every line that mattered. By sunrise, everything with my signature would answer to one person, me. I parked a block from the bank so my license plate wouldn't end up on another live stream. The Savannah air carried that faint brine from the river, the kind that wakes you up better than coffee. Inside, the branch felt like Sunday quiet. Thin carpet, the click of a pen on a chain, a poster about mortgage rates no one ever reads. I greeted the front desk by name. Small courtesies open big doors. "Morning," I said, setting my ID and folder down. "Trust restatement, beneficiaries scrubbed. Just need the window notes updated." The clerk smiled politely, ran my ID, and confirmed the verbal password I'd set yesterday. "All accounts, trustee only, no third-party pickups," she recited. I nodded. "Paper before people," I said. She handed me a printout of current titles and a small card for safe deposit hours. The morning hummed steady, like a well-oiled hinge. The assistant manager led me to a side desk to tighten the rest. We went line by line through each account, removing every leftover alert and tagging "in person only." She read the confirmation aloud. "All accounts answer to trustee Rain Delaney. No exceptions." Ambrose's instruction sheet slid across the desk. She scanned and attached it to my file. I asked for alerts only by landline and mail. No emails. No digital trails for Callista to twist. We closed 2 stale sub-accounts, reissued new cashier checks tied to the trust, and printed a memo to log any attempted third-party withdrawals. It was clean work. Measured. "All tidy," the manager said, signing her name in blue ink. I tucked the papers back into my folder, satisfied. Then I saw her. Through the glass, Callista strutted in like a summer storm, ring light tucked in her tote, phone gleaming like a badge. She went straight to window 3, sugary voice in full bloom. "Hi there. I'm just here to pick up rent from Me Delaney," she said, flashing a half smile. I stayed seated but shifted my chair. Notebook open. The teller asked for authorization. Callista offered a screenshot, her finger covering the name. "See, she texted me." The teller gave a small, tight nod, then waved for the supervisor. 2 customers behind her began whispering. I didn't move. I just wrote the time. 9:27 a.m. The teller leaned closer to her monitor, lips parting like a curtain about to drop. "Balance, 0, she said softly. "All prior accounts deleted. These funds aren't in any personal account. Trust only." Callista froze. Her smile slipped just enough to show the crack. "She told me I could," she whispered. The teller replied, steady as stone. "We'll need the trustee, Ms. Delaney, in person." I rose just enough to be seen but not heard. No need for words. The paperwork spoke fluent truth. Security drifted closer, silent as a shadow. "There's no cash available to you here," the teller added. The manager motioned her aside. I waited where I was, back straight, hands calm. When the manager returned, she carried an incident record documenting the attempt, time, window, and her exact phrases. "Would you like a copy for your attorney?" she asked. "Please," I said. She stapled it to a memo and signed across the corner. I slid it into my accordion folder, right behind consent incidents. "Paper tells the story," I murmured. Callista's tone shifted as fast as a weather vane. "They're gatekeeping rent," she hissed into her phone, voice pitched for sympathy. A guard gestured toward the sign. "No recording in branch." She snapped the camera off with a huff. "I'm family," she tried one last time. "Policy protects families." The manager answered. That landed harder than anything I could have said. I logged the phrase word for word. "Outside, The river breeze met me again. Callista followed, anger sharp in her throat. "You made me look stupid," she spat. I didn't slow down. "No," I said. "I made it legal." She muttered something about lawyers and defamation. I told her. "Put it in writing." Then I crossed the street, steady as a metronome. When I reached home, a small padded mailer sat against the screen door. No return address. Too light to be documents. Inside was a USB stick and a note in block letters. "Watch before your next move." I held it to the light, then placed it beside my locked tin. I picked up my landline and dialed Ambrose. She couldn't touch my money, so she sent me bait. I drove straight to Ambrose Keller's office, the USB sealed in a Ziploc bag like a venomous thing. The time and date were written across the plastic in my own tight handwriting. Ambrose's assistant logged it, took photos of the envelope, and even the porch where I'd found it. GPS coordinates blinking on her phone screen. Ambrose appeared in the doorway, calm as ever. "Don't plug it in," he said, though we both knew I wouldn't. He called his tech vendor, opened a chain of custody form, and slid it toward me. My signature landed first. 30 minutes, he said, for the forensics guy to arrive. While we waited, I filed my bank memo into the exhibits financial section of my accordion folder. Ambrose poured coffee and reminded me, "We answer with paper, not posts." I jotted that line into my notebook, underlined it twice. The tech arrived wearing gloves and purpose. He used a write blocker, mirrored the USB to his laptop, and cast the screen onto a wall monitor. 3 files. Home Truth, a move. Authorization, Rain, PDF. And Click Me at Tamil. That last one was a trap, a redirect to some data mining site. The PDF was worse, a forgery of my signature, authorizing family banking help. The video showed my porch, but with mismatched audio, spliced to sound like I'd given permission to record. Ambrose leaned forward, jaw tight. "Doctored," he said, dictating notes for the demand letter. The tech confirmed. EXIF timestamps didn't match. I felt the heat climb up my neck but kept my tone level. "If it's edited," I said, "it's evidence of their fear." By noon, Ambrose had drafted a preservation demand to the platform and to Callista Voss by name. He included the USB hash, the file list, and a cease and desist citing false authorization and boundary violations. I signed an affidavit describing how I found it, who handled it, who witnessed the chain. My pen moved steady. Every line was a wall going up around me. Ambrose advised, "If she drags this public, your only statement is, all banking is trust-controlled. All permissions are in writing." I memorized it. 5 seconds. Clean. Unshakable. I walked the 2 blocks to the HOA office next. The property manager recognized me instantly. Word travels fast in Savannah. I presented my trustee card and Ambrose's letter and requested revocation of all guest access codes. She printed a new roster and stamped it trustee only. I signed a police-ready trespass notice. If Callista or her film crew showed up again, security could act. "We'll also remind residents about filming rules," she said. I thanked her and left with a stamped memo in my hand, the kind of paper that keeps the peace. Back home. I texted my tenants a short form, whether anyone had asked for rent or keys that morning. Their replies came quick. "She said you were too tired to handle business." I screenshotted both, forwarded them to Ambrose. "Affidavit templates incoming," he texted back. I printed the messages and added them to the binder, labeled Exhibits Tenants. Then I replaced the batteries in my doorbell camera. Paper and footage, together, they tell stories no gossip can bend. At 3, the phone rang. Unknown number, but I answered anyway. Speaker on landline recording. "We can fix this," Callista began, syrup dripping from every syllable. "Split the rents, no drama. I'll film it properly this time." My voice stayed even. All banking is trust-controlled. All permissions are in writing. A pause, then her threat. Lawyers are expensive. Ignorance costs more, I said, ending the call. I logged the time in my ledger. Evening came soft through the blinds. I three-hole punched every document, stacked them by order, USB report, HOA memo, tenant statements. I brewed tea, set 2 mugs on the counter, one for me, one for the part of me that still wanted to shout. I practiced out loud. Please direct all requests through counsel. The property is not content. The room stayed quiet, solid, safe. Then my phone pinged, a new email from the HOA. Subject: Special hearing, unauthorized filming and harassment. The complaint was filed by Callista Voss herself, claiming I was weaponizing policy. The manager's note read, "Bring your documents, security will be present." I zipped my binder shut. The sound was clean, final, like drawing a line in ink. I arrived at the clubhouse early, the air thick with evening humidity and unspoken judgment. I signed the sheet. Rain Delaney, owner and trustee, then handed security my HOA memo from yesterday. Ambrose Keller was already by the projector cart, sleeves rolled, calm as a courthouse clerk. We did a minute-long sound test, timestamps bold on the screen, no volume tricks. My seat was 2 chairs from the aisle, perfect line of sight. The board president recited decorum rules, no recording, 3-minute statements, exhibits through the clerk. I laid out my binder labeled Voss Incident, pens aligned, stopwatch at 0, every move quiet, deliberate. The clerk began to read Callista Voss's complaint. Her words landed flat. Withheld rent, harassment, staged confusion at a bank. I underlined withheld rent and staged. They'd age well in cross-examination. Callista stood then, dressed for drama, her confidence rehearsed. "This is about community image," she said, voice trembling on the word spite. I wrote that word down. The board president nodded to me next. I stood with 1 page in hand. All banking is trust-controlled. All permissions are in writing. Then I added, "Tonight, I'll show edited audio, a forged signature, and a failed withdrawal attempt." When the projector lit, the room changed temperature. The first clip, my real doorbell recording, played with clean sound, wind chime steady, timestamp firm. Then came the USB video, same visuals, but choppy audio, my voice spliced. I pointed to the moment where the chimes cut out mid-ring. "That's a 7/10 second jump," I said. Ambrose clicked to the tech report showing mismatched timestamps. The room murmured. Security leaned forward. 6:18 p.m. "Exhibit V12, I said for the record. Next, I displayed the affidavit from the bank. Manager's signature, teller log, forged authorization attempt. Timestamp 9:12 m. The system flagged the mismatch. My verification stopped it. I let that hang. "This is why you never click a link and never rush a signature," I added. The forged PDF sat beside my real trustee document. The difference clear even from the back row. The board counsel asked, "Do you believe Ms. Voss created this?" I said, "No. I believe she used it." My tone stayed even, but inside, something unclenched. We moved to the malware memo. Ambrose's IT report filled the screen. "Click me, Tamil, a credential harvester. We preserved, not executed," I told the room. "It's being logged with police tonight." The clerk noted the badge number of the responding officer. I didn't look at Callista. I looked at the board. This is why we have boundaries. Safety is policy. Callista tried to pivot, voice rising. "It was my cousin who uploaded that," she snapped. I answered calmly, "The files list one device name. Either it's authentic or it's not." She sneered. "You're petty." I smiled faintly. "I prefer documented." The audience laughed, quiet but firm. The board chair lifted a hand. "We've heard enough." A man in a gray suit entered. "Ms. Voss," he said. "You've been served." He laid the envelope on the table. "Cease and desist. Notice of a temporary restraining order." The clerk stapled proof of service into the record. Callista's hand trembled. Her phone slipped into her lap. The silence that followed was heavier than any shout. The ruling came swift. Her guest access revoked. All filming near my home banned. Violations reportable to police. The president turned to me. "Miss Delaney, thank you for the order of your exhibits." I said, "Paper, not posts," Callista muttered. "You just killed my channel." I answered, "I saved my home." Ambrose gathered the USB copy and our memos. We stepped into the darkening evening. Thunder rolled over the marsh, low and certain. My phone buzzed, a live stream alert. Voss House, elder abuser. The thumbnail showed my car plate. I showed Ambrose the screen. "We're still on property," he said. "Policy still applies." I nodded once. "Then let's make sure it's enforced." The parking lot glowed under yellow lights, wet from a short drizzle. Ambrose walked beside me, already calling security to preserve the camera footage. My phone buzzed. Voss House is live. The thumbnail showed my car's license plate. I opened the TRO summary, reading the interim no-contact clause word for word. Ambrose's tone was steady. "That includes this lot," he reminded me. We went back inside. He logged an incident report while security cued the camera angles. I called non-emergency PD, calm and clear. Unauthorized filming, potential doxing, HOA ruling in place. 10 seconds later, the app flashed. "Removed, violates community guidelines." I screenshotted it. Sometimes justice moves faster than noise. 2 officers arrived while the board members were still packing up. I handed over my binder. HOA ruling, USB report, bank affidavit, TRO notice. "This was filmed after the hearing," I said. "Here's the sign about recording." They reviewed the playback and asked if I wanted a formal warning recorded. "Yes, please. Case file continuity." Ambrose offered a statement on HOA letterhead with timestamps. I requested patrol presence for 20 minutes, just in case she tried another exit show. The officer nodded, explaining how to attach supplemental files if more uploads appeared. Paper before panic. Always. Then came the digital echoes. Email after email. One from the platform. Policy strike. Monetization suspended pending review. Another from a brand rep. Partnership pause due to community safety optics. I forwarded both to my evidence folder. Ambrose raised an eyebrow. "That was fast," I said. "Consequences teach louder than scolding." I sent the thread to my estate attorney with the subject, "Platform strike, harassment evidence." The night air felt heavy, like the moment before thunder. Winning wasn't sweet, it was solid. My phone lit up again, my son. I answered on speaker. "Mama, you didn't have to do all that. She's humiliated." His tone wavered between defense and guilt. I replied, "She humiliated herself. I documented it." He said I'd embarrass the family. "Family is respect, not publicity," I told him. I offered to send him the affidavit proving the forgery. He said not to. I set my final line. "No access without written permission. Rent due Friday, trust portal only." He hung up. The silence afterward wasn't empty, it was earned. At home, I renamed files, labeled subfolders, added screenshots by date. I drafted a calm email to neighbors. "Thank you for respecting privacy, HOA reminder posted." Then one to the board, appreciation, not triumph. The chimes on the porch moved softly in the wind. Quiet felt different now, chosen, not fragile. I brewed tea, let it cool. On my chalkboard I wrote, "Paper, not posts." The word steadied me more than caffeine ever could. A patrol car idled outside. The officer returned a cyber packet link. I uploaded the malware report, the HTML code, the device serials. He said, "You made our job easy." I smiled faintly. "No, I just learned to make mine harder to undo." The cruiser rolled away under the moss-hung oaks. By 9:00, my neighbors began texting. "Proud of you." "Thanks for setting a standard." The HOA manager emailed a bulletin draft about privacy and porch filming. I suggested one simple line. "If it's not on paper, it didn't happen." He kept it. Ambrose forwarded a staff training invite, Policy and Privacy, Friday. RSVP'd for the back row. Strength doesn't always need a podium. I reviewed tomorrow's checklist. Exhibits V12 through V15, bank letter, platform strike, on the fridge. The tide chart marked low tide, good light for my morning walk before court. I left an envelope for my sister, copies, not drama. My son's contact still glowed on the screen. I flipped it, face down. "We're safe," I whispered to the house. Then another email landed. Notice of counter-complaint filed. Attached, a JPEG of my forged signature. I lined it beside the bank PDF. The loops didn't match. "If she wants the court to see my signature," I said softly, "they'll see the real one." I clicked off the lamp and let the quiet settle like a verdict already written. The morning light over the Savannah Pier looked like brushed silver. I walked its length, breathing deep until the air steadied my thoughts. The tide was low, the gulls loud. It grounded me, reminding me why I came this far. Peace, not applause, back home. I reviewed the checklist, exhibits V12 through V16, each labeled, each clipped. I called Ambrose. "Chain numbers match," he said. "We're airtight." I packed the binder, originals, and certified copies into my tote. Before leaving, I whispered a short prayer over my coffee. Let truth, not ego, speak. I locked the door and left a sealed backup envelope with my neighbor. Noon Friday's rent reminder blinked on my phone. Paper, not posts, again and again. The courthouse smelled of old wood and sanitizer. Security checked my bag. The clerk called our case for 10 a.m. I saw Callista in the hallway beside a young attorney, both whispering fast. Her eyes met mine, then slid away. I greeted the clerk politely, filed my exhibit list, and asked for projector access. The responding officer gave me a nod from the back row. I texted Ambrose one word: ready. His reply came quick, steady and small. I sat front row aisle seat, palms flat on my skirt, pulse steady, and when the judge entered, the room shifted to silence. After the oath, I stood, stated my name, and confirmed my relation to the trust. On the screen, the JPEG Callista submitted appeared beside my verified bank signature card. Even from the back, you could see it, the wrong loop on the R, shaky and rushed. I slid a transparent overlay across the screen to trace the inconsistency. Pressure variation, I explained. The original shows natural ink flow. The JPEG shows pixel interpolation. The officer confirmed the timestamp. The so-called receipt was created during the HOA hearing. The judge turned to her lawyer. "Foundation?" he asked. The young man stammered, "We withdraw." The judge raised a brow. "Too late. It's part of record." The next wave came quickly. The bank affidavit was sworn and clean, proof of a blocked withdrawal and signature mismatch. Then the PD confirmation packet, HTML snippet from Click Me, forensic trace verified, Ambrose's custody chain aligned with police timestamps. Even the officer admitted, "I wish every file looked this clean." I added the emails, platform strike, sponsor pause. "Pattern of harm," I said simply. The defense tried to frame it as overkill. The judge cut in. It's called being prepared. When the ruling came, it sounded final, heavy with truth. The TRO became a full protective order, digital and physical. The false counterclaim dismissed with prejudice, sanctions ordered for misleading submission. The trust and property affirmed, rent portal validated for Friday noon. The judge signed for removal of defamatory posts and set a compliance review in 30 days. I asked to share the order with HOA and PD, granted. A quiet win, stamped and real. Outside on the courthouse steps, my son approached. He looked smaller than I remembered. "Mom, this got bigger than I thought." I answered softly. It got honest. I offered family counseling, boundaries clear, rent via portal, no visits, everything written. I handed him a copy of the order. "Read this, then call me with facts, not feelings." He nodded, speechless, then drifted toward Callista's corner. Ambrose waited by the curb, calm as ever. Back home, I made victory ordinary, emailed the signed order to HOA, PD, my attorney, scheduled the locksmith, updated the access list. In the trust portal, I activated the pay or quit timer. Then I brewed coffee and looked toward the marsh. Peace didn't feel loud, it felt earned. That afternoon, I taped the court order inside my entry closet, right where the umbrellas hang. "Protection," I murmured. "Rain or shine?" My phone buzzed, a reporter asking for both sides. I deleted it. I texted the family thread, paper 1. Peace is non-negotiable. Then I saw a new email subject line, compliance review, 30 days. I smiled, 30 days, just enough time to grow a garden. As I poured tea and glanced at the tide chart, a faint knock echoed at the door. 3 slow, 1 quick. No delivery was scheduled, no neighbor expected. Through the glass, an envelope with no return address waited. My name, typed in bold. I hesitated, heart steady but curious. Who still had my paper?